Hey guys, this is Doc Helper coming to you from my studio here in Alvin, Texas. Today, I've really got a cool guest in mind, and let me tell you a little bit about him. So, our guest was born in Alberta, Canada, to a poor immigrant family from Sri Lanka. He immigrated to the United States to pursue his secondary education. He wanted to be a dentist, right? And so he went to Howard University. He got his dental degree. After Johnny got out of school, he did kind of the opposite of what most dentists do. Most dentists take their money, they scrimp, they save, they may buy the big house, the boat, and the car, but their goal is they want to buy a practice because that's how they feel they're going to secure their future and build a retirement. Johnny did the opposite. He began looking for investments around him and began investing in realty. Now, he has built multiples of millions of dollars. And he currently actually helps other dentists and other high net worth individuals to build wealth through real estate. And he specializes in multifamily units. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Is your resume or job posting just not being seen? You need a better plan. Whether you're looking for a permanent or temporary position or looking to hire, at Cloud Dentistry, we have you covered. We connect practices with verified professionals interested in temp and permanent work. Sign up for your free account in just 2 easy steps. Go to www.clouddentistry.com and start browsing the dental talent in your area today.
And just kind of a little bit about your journey. First of all, Johnny, how the hell are you this morning?
Doc, I was doing great when I woke up. When I opened my eyes, I had gratitude because that means it's a great day already. But then I'm on this revered podcast talking to the ultimate doc. I don't think my day could get better.
Well, man, I'll tell you what, thank you for the flattery. So folks, we're going to start off with kind of, your journey from when you became a dentist. I think that the journey getting there is very important too. And you and I have kind of talked before about the journey of an immigrant or a second generation immigrant and the different values and different work ethic that is instilled in you. And I think a lot of younger dentists just aren't getting from their parents, and that definitely lends itself to building a great life. But it's the actual actions that you took to build your wealth that we're going to talk about today. And perhaps another time we can have just kind of a crowd kind of a thing where we talk with a couple other people on a panel about the work ethic, the drive, the why. But today I'd like you to specifically concentrate on the realty side of things. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Let's
Fantastic.
do it.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit about what made you decide to first become involved in real estate and kind of the story of how that kind of fell into being in the first place. What was your first investment or your first interest? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. I can tell you the easy story. Quick story is I got into real estate when I was in dental school, right? I started learning about my interest came in dental school. My father, we came from a poor immigrant family, as you mentioned, from Sri Lanka. And my father was also an entrepreneurial minded person, right? Very ambitious. And he tried and failed at many businesses. Towards the end of his life, not the end of his life, he's still alive very much today. Later on in his life, he started he started having some modest success in real estate. By this time, my brother and I were both in dental school in our early 20s, and he gave us some books about investing in real estate. And I read my first book as a D3 dental student called Creating Wealth by Robert Allen. And the ideas about building wealth and building equity. And I knew right from when I read that book that I'm going to build my wealth through real estate investing. So that continued. I kept reading while I was studying for boards for dental school. Then I went and did endodontics at NYU, continued to read and learn about real estate. And I told everybody, listen, as soon as I graduate, this is what I'm going to get into real estate. And I graduated 2008, as you mentioned. And 8 months later, 2009, I saved up enough money and I bought my first real estate investment property. That was 2009. And so
when you got your first real estate investment property, obviously your dad was from Canada. So I'm assuming some of the realty laws and things like that are different. And the tax repercussions as well. I think you probably actually have better tax repercussions here in the States, at least some states, better than in Alberta. But where did you buy your first real estate? Did you buy in New York? Because I mean, I've been looking in New York since you and I've been talking, and we're talking about 900 square foot apartments that are going for $7,700 a month, and that's the cheap ones. So
that's a great point. So, Doug, you're absolutely right. I was first. Listen, I graduated, and never had any money before. Now all of a sudden I'm in Manhattan. I'm living in Manhattan. I'm making an income. Amazing, right? I was like, wow, I made it. But the thing is, I couldn't afford any of the investment properties in that area, right? Not at that time. So what I started doing, I just was trying to get into the game. And this was probably a mistake. I made some mistakes because of my willingness to get involved no matter what, And right. So it just happened that my sister-in-law, she was going to pursue her MBA program at Seton Hall University, which is Northern New Jersey, which is very close to New York City Metro. It's in New York City metropolitan area. Her and her graduate friends were looking for a house to rent. I said, hey, listen, why don't I buy the house, find a house and buy it, and then you guys rent it from me, right? It's a really modest story. There's no, and I found a property on Craigslist. I bought it and they rented it from me. It's very simple as that, Very interestingly, I still have that house to this day. Just to show you the power of real estate, and just a small little tiny house I bought for $290,000. I rented it to them for $2,400 a month. Now we're 2023, about 14 years later. I still have the house. The rent is $4,200 for this tiny 1,400 square foot house, and the value has gone from $285,000 to over $700,000. Right? So I mean, like this, there's $500,000 of equity, and the income has gone up $1,600 while the mortgages stayed the same, fixed debt. So amazing. I mean, that's not necessarily what I'm promoting or what I'm talking about, but it's just to show you that, the power of real estate, and the ability to build. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, like, let's say, and I know you teach some of this stuff. You have a YouTube channel, Walk of Wealth, which, guys, you should go on there, check it out, like his channel. And while you're at it, like and subscribe to mine. But I know you teach a lot of this stuff. Talk to me about some of the first steps. And I'm sure, because we've kind of talked about doing some seminars and things like that. And I'm sure that you put on seminars and, paid seminars to help people to get involved in this and kind of hold their hand and teach them. And I know that you also have some investment backers that we're going to talk about in a little bit, that you can kind of help people get involved with, spending other people's money and instead of your own, which I'm always a big fan of, as you know. What's our first step here? Like if I'm a dentist and I'm coming to you or I'm a dental student and I'm coming to you and I say, hey, look, Johnny, I really, really want to get into real estate, but I don't know where to start. Now, maybe they came up to you, they're holding a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? I think more people involved in real estate than any other book out there.
Oh, that's the Purple Bible. Yeah, I'm a proponent of the Purple Bible as well. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So talk to what are you going to tell them? I mean, you're like, hey, here's your first step.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I mean, for context, why should anybody listen to me about real estate and anything at all? Like, I mean, I've been through the active part, right? I just want to back up a little just to get some background. I've done active investing. As you mentioned, I built a multi-million-dollar portfolio, commercial real estate, all different types of commercial real estate. I dabbled. I learned the game. I learned to manage. I really learned from the school of hard knocks. I also learned that that's not scalable, right? It's not a scalable business to continue adding properties as well as being a full-time endodontist. And now I have 2 young children. I have a family. And now all of a sudden there's time constraints, right? So it's either, hey, look, I can keep going and neglecting all the other parts of my life and just keep adding more real estate and trying to expand my empire. But I quickly realized that money is not really what you're after. Like when you don't have any money, you think, hey, money is going to solve the problem. But then when you get to the point that now money, you have a certain level of money, it's like money isn't really what you're after.
It's the time freedom equation.
Means to an end. Yes, money is a means to an end. What I'm really after is time. Right? Having the freedom of time to do what I want, right? Which is, I want to spend more time with my children. If I'm feeling the impacts of dental burnout, lower back pain, I'm just stressed out from dentistry, I want to have an ability to be able to step back from it, right? So being able to travel, being able to work out. So what we're really after is time freedom, right? So I was time poor. Even though on paper I was very successful, but listen, this guy's Hopper, got close to 7-figure income as a specialist. He's got all this real estate. He's got this beautiful family, but on the inside, people didn't see that. Listen, I'm at max capacity, full bandwidth. And so that's where it took me it came to a turning point. And I'll tell you where it came to a turning point, Doc. My daughter's kindergarten recital. I missed it, right? I missed it just because I got there a few minutes too late to the thing because I was busy working too late. And I still remember flying down the highway, like breaking all kinds of laws just to get there. I sprint into the gym where they're doing the thing, and I had missed it by a few minutes. Afterwards, my daughter comes up to me and says, "Daddy, did you see my singing?" And I said, I truthfully told her, "Sorry, I just missed it." And that crestfallen look, Doc, like I'll never forget. It's imprinted in my mind. Curly hair, nice red dress, red bow, black shoes. Right, my daughter is the apple of my eye. Right, as many fathers here would know. And once I saw that, and I went home that night, and I felt, listen, I felt guilt. I felt a sense of shame. Like, listen, I'm so successful, but I'm not present at one of the most important people in my life for their important events. That made me take a step back, right? Like peel the onion back a layer. Absolutely. What am I really trying to achieve here? That's when I realized that I'm looking for time. I'm looking for time freedom, right? The financial freedom. That was when everything changed, right? So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I had reread around that time. I'm glad that you brought that book up. Then the framework completely changed. Hey, we're doing it wrong here. And that led me to discover passive investment in real estate, right? I was at that time in 2008, passive investment, multiple, all this, that stuff didn't even exist, right? Mm-hmm. There's no podcast. There was no webinars. There was no audiobook, at least not to my knowledge, right? I didn't have access. It was a completely different world then. Now I'm learning about passive investing. This is 2016. And I went all in, Doc, right? So this is a way to invest in real estate and get all the advantages of real estate. You can build cash flow. You can build wealth. You can get tax advantages. You can get diversification out of the stock market casino, right? You have the ability to leverage. You have the ability to invest in tangible assets. All of these advantages.
I'm glad you called the stock market the casino, because that's exactly what it is. It's gambling in my book.
Thank you.
You only gamble money you can afford to lose.
Thank you. That's exactly what it is. And so that wasn't working for me, Doc. I'm like, listen, I'm going to go all in on passive investment in real estate. I'm going to build tons truly passive income. And I'm going to get out of that stock market casino. Now people might think I'm crazy on this, but I have $0 in the stock market, Doc. Mm-hmm. I moved everything, my whole life policy, to my SEP IRA. I rolled it into an asset class that I understand, and an asset class that gives you a predictable way to build wealth, a strategy to actually exit the game, right? Because the stock market is accumulate, live off 4%, hope that you don't run out of it by the time you die. Accumulation.
And it crashes right before you think you're going to retire.
And then, I got to stave off retirement for another 7 years until the market corrects. This is not financial planning. This is not this is gambling with your family's future.
I couldn't agree more.
There is better assets out there that have true proven track record. Doc, you've heard this. More millionaires have been made in this country than any other business out there. No. Second fact, there's more millionaires in America than any other country in the world. That tells us that the most predictable path to building wealth is through real estate. But less than 5% of our colleagues invest in real estate in any meaningful way.
That's crazy.
That's what I came to change. That's what my whole purpose. I had to go out and tell my colleagues that there's a better way to do this.
I think in all honesty, so I think most of our listeners, most dentists out there, we just get to a point, and you know a little bit about my story. I think most of my following here knows about my story. I kind of liquidated everything out of the stock market in 2019, sold my practice in February of 2020, missed the huge, pandemic thing, and all the value loss that my stocks would have taken, my practice would have taken. And a lot of people would say I just got lucky, but I predicted we were going to have a huge recession. So I liquidated everything and I put it into different assets, like you're talking about. I think a lot of us out there, though, a lot of people took a big hit, and there's a lot of FOMO out there. You know, they're still looking at the losses that they took, and oh man, I've got to hold on. It's like in a bad relationship. You know what I'm saying? Whenever you keep dating this chick, even though she's trashing your life, because, you know, I've put 7 years into
the relationship.
Right. You know, that's how I think of most people's investment relationship whenever we're talking about investing in the stock market directly. It's not like investing in realty isn't participating in the stock market, because you're participating in the wealth creation of the entire nation. It's just you're also diversifying against, into commodities and, population boom and, everything. And if you do it right, and we're going to talk about doing it right, the asset class that you're investing in isn't the high tier properties. You're looking at aiming at middle America, because middle America is just getting bigger. And frankly, they're getting wealthier too. Not dollar per dollar buying power right now, but how many people do you know who are middle class that don't have a big screen TV in their house, huge LED, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5? They have a lot of disposable income that they didn't before. And that's a huge thing to tap into. So talk to us a little bit about how you tap into that mass market. And, and do have one follow-up question for you. Did you end up liquidating your single dwellings to jump into this? I thought you might have, with the exception of that one house that you had bought for your sister.
That's right.
So, I mean, that's going to be a little bit of nostalgia sitting in that one. But so talk to me about that, your jump into this, and what you found about investing in the middle. Hey guys, this is Doc Huffpower, founder of the Business of Dentistry and host of the Dear Doc podcast. Today, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about one of our sponsors. 4G Dental Labs has been a sponsor of the Business of Dentistry for over 2 years now. They're a family-owned business located here in Houston, Texas. They're fast, they're reliable, but best of all, they provide affordable quality. They're just plain, honest, good people. For our TBOD members, for your first 20 crowns, every fifth one will be free. Contact 4G Dental Labs at 833-682-8901. Again, that's 833-682-8901, or you can mail or even just stop by. Jeff Guidey, the owner, would be glad to see you.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I had close to 10 properties. I think I had 10 properties in 2016. And once I discovered this passive investing, Doc, and I discovered that whole strategy, I had never sold any real estate from 2008 to 2016 because I'm a long-term player. I believe that real estate builds wealth when you hold for long periods of time, right? So I had never sold a piece of real estate. I'd never sold anything. I just bought. And now I started unloading everything. I started selling everything and moving that capital into passive investments, right? Into these passive investments. Now, you mentioned where we like to invest. So for me, my investment thesis was based around how do I build cash flows with the lowest risk, right? How can I get the highest returns on a risk mitigated basis? So it's not like I love multifamily real estate and that's what I went. I'm actually somewhat market agnostic, asset class agnostic. I have certain criteria that I'm trying to meet. And it just happens that multifamily real estate happens to check a lot of those boxes, right? So
share that criteria with us if you don't mind. I'm always a big believer. If you give information freely, people will come to you for more. So share your kind of your assessment there.
So yeah, well, we're looking for predictability of outcome, right? So what asset class will give us cash flow predictably? What asset class can build our wealth predictably? What asset class can give us tax advantages, the best tax advantages, while at the same time de-risking as much as possible, right? So that led me to the multifamily real estate, and not just any multifamily real estate. Multifamily real estate, there's Class A, Class B, Class C, as you kind of alluded to. Class A is the luxury, high-end amenities, brand new right? Top of the line stuff. That's called core or core plus assets. For us, I don't like that asset class. For me, I like class B assets. Class B is workforce housing. These are our blue collar workers. These are hardworking and gainfully employed people that have higher or at or higher than median incomes. The reason is that this asset class is more recession resilient. Why? Because when class A, for example, luxury, when shit hits the fan, sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to curse here.
I know, absolutely.
When
you obviously haven't listened to too many of my podcasts because you'd know.
Exactly. But when things get rough, guess what happens to class A? Class A people are mobile. They have the option to move. They're white collar people. They're usually younger demographics that live in cores or major urban centers because they want to be near amenities, restaurants, lounges, bars, etc. But they can also downsize. Hey, look, I can't afford this anymore. I'm going to go back and live with my parents. I'm going to go and move to a class B apartment, right? Class B, on the other hand, they don't have anywhere to go, right? Class C, you get a lower class property, more derelict. They can go downsize if you want. But if you look historically, class B tends to be very sticky. In bad times, those tenants tend to be even stickier because they don't want to lose where they're already living.
Yeah, they trim everything else except for their home.
Except cost of housing. Because guess what? As Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
exactly,
food, water, shelter. Right. So we're in the business of providing a basic human need where the demand doesn't go away. In fact, in bad times and recessions where we're headed for, that thesis, multifamily real estate does even better. Why? Because guess what, Doc? People are priced out of housing. You can't afford a 9% mortgage anymore. People are not buying homes, right? America's becoming a renter nation. And if you can't afford it, this puts even more pressure for affordable housing. People can't afford their houses, whether guess what? They're going to go and live where they can where they live, which is affordable housing. So if you look at multifamily real estate, it does even better during bad times. There's historical precedent to prove that. In the 1970s, we had the worst recession in 50 years. Stock market crashed. Multifamily real estate remained robust and strong. 1999,
the Jimmy Carter recession?
That was was that Nixon? I believe that was Nixon. But I do remember who the Federal Reserve guy was, Paul Volcker. In 1980, he raised interest rate to 18%.
Yep.
A car loan cost 22% at that time as they tried to stave off the massive crushing effects of inflation. We're headed for those times now, Doc, So
Dude, you and I could have a whole podcast talking about the Federal Reserve, and quantitative easing, and negative interest rates. And they're coming too, because you saw that white paper that the Fed put out on negative interest rates. So it's going to be interesting times coming up, my friend.
I think we're headed for at least one more hike. Interest rate. Inflation remains rampant. We have wars to fund. We have China. We have the Cold War that's happening in the Taiwan Strait. We have sent billions more to Ukraine. So guess where this money coming from? It's not coming from taxing people more. That's coming from the Feds printing that magic button. Boop, give me some more money. And let's run up inflation more. So we need to be in a place where we're hedging ourselves against inflation, right? So just to finish my last thought here, Doc, 1999, we had the dot-com bubble, stock market crash, multifamily real estate plugged along. 2008, great financial recession, stock market crash, housing market crashed, right? People were losing their homes en masse to foreclosure and to short sales. Doc, where did those people go and live? Did they go and live did they go and live in the street? They went and lived where they fit in, right? So multifamily real estate kept plugging along at double-digit returns while the world crashed and burned, right? 2020, COVID, everything stopped. Retail stopped, hospitality stopped, leisure stopped. Everything was dead. But we collected 95% rents.
Yep.
During a global pandemic, we still collected 90% rents, right? So the historical precedent is there. All we have to do is follow it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. If we are high income earning professionals, all we have to do is park our money in the right asset classes consistently year after year after year to become very wealthy. Point blank, period. That's why we need to do this. The 60, 40, 70, 30 stock bond, that's over, right? We have the ability to participate in private offerings as accredited investors as defined in 2012 by the Jobs Act. Right, we have the ability to expand our portfolios and take it out of the the bigs of Wall Street and put this money back in Main Street. That's what we have the ability to do, invest in real estate. The other thing I want to touch on, and you mentioned it beautifully, is that we're headed for inflation. We're headed for more times of uncertainty.
Absolutely.
We need to be parked in places that have in asset classes that have been historically great at hedging against inflation. And what are those? The two main things are gold and silver. Gold has stood the test of time. You go back before Christ, that was still a store of value, and that showed societies were using that to like trade goods and services. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is real estate, right? Real estate is a perfect hedge against inflation, because if you know, one of the biggest drivers of inflation right now is the cost of housing. That's what's even driving inflation now, is the rents are still out of control, right? So when inflation is high, rents go up. When rents go up, net operating incomes go up. When net operating incomes go up, values go up as a multiple of cap rates. So actually, inflation makes real estate investors rich, right? The other side of that coin is real estate is a highly leveraged investment. So guess what happens during inflation? The debt gets eroded. The debtor is the one that's in a favored position when there's inflation. So this is why the natural thesis for real estate has never been stronger, right?
Wait,
so passive investment, that's why I'm teaching this stuff, dog. That's why we're trying
it's kind of a double threat. I mean, if you think about it, okay, whenever you think about value or you think about wealth, what has value? What has value is something that has scarcity. And so land, gold, anything that your buying route is increasing over time, but your availability of is going to go up in value, and it's going to hold its value. And just like you just said, with inflation, you're going to deflate your debt. It's going to erode the debt. But more so than that, the value in good times is going to continue to go up, because when good times come, people want more real estate. People on the bottom are moving up. It seems like just such a no-brainer to me, but 5% of dentists do it.
Well, think about it, Doc. What are the main reasons that a dentist doesn't invest in real estate? Those facts that we mentioned, everybody knows them, but what are the main things holding dentists back from investing in real estate? Number one is lack of knowledge, lack of opportunity to investments, right? And lack of capacity to go out and analyze and look at a deal and know whether this. So the world of private offering is fraught with risk. Let's not just say that, hey, this is just, hey, do this and it's over. There is a component of learning. There is a component of understanding that needs to be there. This is where, because there is an active component to passive investing, right? There's a
lack of liquidity is another one, but you actually address that.
Yes,
with
having money.
Teach.
Absolutely. And that's the number one thing that prevents most people from investing in real estate is lack of capital, right? But and that's why I say we have a step up on the general population, because the biggest hurdle, which is having capital, a lot of times that's what dentists have, right? We do have money to invest. It's just that we're drawn left and right. Oh, Bitcoin, trampoline parks, Herbalife, invest in my uncle's, sandwich shop. Right. Even though that worked out for DeLuca and Subway, right? But I believe it was a dentist that invested $1,000 to get half of that fortune. But the point is, we're drawn in all kinds of ways, and we lose money in all kinds of ways. That's what dentists do, right? We're known for that. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki says dentists are the biggest demographic that can get rich, but very poor at becoming wealthy, because we become great consumers.
I'm glad that you draw that line, because that's something we should talk about. What is the difference between riches and wealth?
Sure, absolutely. So the way I define it, rich is money, is measured in money, cash. Hey, I made $1 million a year. I make $1 million a year, even though you're taxed 300. You're taxed heavily on that. I have X, Y, and Z car. Well, I have X, Y, and Z. I have car. I have this beautiful house. I have I have a Patek Philippe watch. I travel to Ibiza, whatever. That's being rich. Now, wealth is measured in time. how long can you step back from your business and be completely fine? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 1 month? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 5 years? Now, somebody that can say, hey, I can stop working tomorrow and I can survive for 5 years versus somebody says I can last for a week or 2 weeks before get to the cash crunch. That's the difference in wealth, right? That's what wealth brings you. Wealth is measured in time. Riches is measured in money. Wealth is measured in time.
So let's talk a little bit about multi-unit specifically. So explain first of all,
multifamily real estate,
realty, and also explain indirect investing versus direct investing. We've covered those earlier in our conversation, but we haven't really kind of
defined what it is. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the majority of us, when we think of investing in real estate, we think of active investing, right? We think of watching Property Brothers, HGTV. You buy a house, you renovate it over a weekend, and you sell it for a $70,000 profit the next week. That's active investing. So active investing means that you're going and finding the property, acquiring it, choosing the market that you're going to invest in, negotiating with lenders to find the best loan product, management of the property, management of tenants,
right,
refinancing, disposition of assets. Everything falls under the purview of the investor. That's an active investor.
And before you go on there,
yes,
you just said management of the properties, and that's what I wanted you to get to, because we're talking about the difference between riches and wealth, and that is time. What people aren't understanding is that by increasing their riches with investing in single unit houses that they hold and collect rent on, they're actually paying dividends to that property in time. Because even if you're not doing all of the maintenance yourself or finding the renters and managing the properties yourself, you still have to dedicate and devote a good portion of your time to making sure that those properties stay in tip-top condition and don't depreciate in value.
Yeah, that's 100%, right? You have to manage the manager.
Right.
That's called asset management. If you're not managing your asset and you have a property manager that you're paying $150 a month to manage a single family house for you so you can be completely hands off and not do anything and not ever look at it, that's a recipe for disaster. A guy making $150, that's not his primary source of income. And if he knows that you're not watching him and you can do whatever you can, it starts to slip. And if you have multiple properties where things are slipping because you're not doing it, managing it the proper way, then you're running a lot of risk. The other thing on that is that you're taking all recourse loans, right? You increase your liability with every mortgage that you take. So now you're putting yourself at higher risk. And then you're depending on yourself to managing it. You're a mom and pop operator. You're not an expert. You're not a real estate professional. You're not an expert. And that's who you're competing with in the marketplace. You're actually in a riskier position, I would say, if you are the one that's actively managing and you are the doctor is the one that's responsible for it, right? There are some dentists that are wonderful real estate operators and they are excellent but those are far and few between. And they learned another business of real estate. But put it this way, passive investment is you're deferring to third parties to actually operate the business, right? So that's what a passive investment is.
And people who are actually professionally doing this and earn their primary income, this is top of mind with them. That's all they're paying, and not the guy who's making $150 a month.
Okay, so Doc, take this example. There's a 25-unit apartment building that's available. We're like, hey, Doc, you and I, we're going to pool our capital. We're going to go buy that 25-unit building, right? We're going to renovate the units because right now the average rent in that apartment building is $700 a month. But we know that the rest of the surrounding market for renovating units is paying $1,000 a month. Mm-hmm. So we can get a $300 premium times 25 units times 12 months. So we know, hey, there's definitely value to be added here. So what do? We go and buy it. We get a loan. We hire general contractors. They come in and renovate the properties. Over the course of 4 years, we renovate all the units and we sell for a profit, and we take our percentage of the profits each, right? Now take that same 25-unit property, but you have a professional company, a real estate company that already owns 3,000 units in that city. So they're going to just add one more 25 unit property to their portfolio. Who's going to get better financing when we go? Are we going to get better terms than a guy that's buying it? Oh, we've already done $20 million worth of loans with this bank already this year. So we just want to do one more of the same thing that we've been doing year after year after year. We're going to get way less favorable terms in terms of that. Insurance. Oh, we have an umbrella policy that already has 300,000 units. We just want to tuck another 25 unit property into this portfolio at pennies on the dollar, whereas we get underwritten as one single unit and we get the highest premium possible. Then you look at the operations. Hey, we have in-house construction people that can renovate all 25 units in 18 months.
Right.
And they're getting paid by the hour, whereas we're hiring expensive general contractors and it's going to take us 4 years to do it.
And
right?
the contract.
The contractors, right? And then you look at every step of the way. They have software, they have technologies, they have systems and procedures. They have 60 full-time staff members that's dedicated to running a real estate business. Now, if you take that same 25 unit property, the returns on that 25 unit property from us doing it and a professional company that can do it with efficiency and time and scale, we can generate asymmetric, even though we made profits, there's asymmetrically higher profits with this other company doing it, right? Yes. And the returns are so much higher that, hey, look, why don't we just invest alongside these guys and take 70% of the profits and give them 30% of the profits to execute the business plan? But it'll probably end up that we make the same return anyway, right? And we haven't done any of the work this time.
I was going to say, without expending the dividend of time.
No time, no work. Listen, when I started doing real estate, Doc, I used to look like Brad Pitt. I had a full head of hair. Once I started managing all this property, all this stuff, this is the stress of managing it. The other thing is, you don't have any recourse loans. You don't increase your liability as a limited partner. When you're investing in these properties, you're not increasing your liability. Your risk is only limited to the invested capital. So now if we can partner along best of class operators so that we can participate in these large real estate deals with taking minimal risk and getting our time back, now that's a scalable strategy, right? Absolutely. Because we can invest in a beautiful apartment building in a booming city over here. We can invest in another apartment building in a booming city with a different operator in a different geographic location. And then another one in Atlanta and another one in Houston, Texas, another one in Phoenix, areas that are booming, great markets, great best-in-class operators. That is a strategy. Now you have income coming in from a property in Phoenix. I have income coming in from a property in Houston. I have income coming in from a property from Atlanta. They're independent of each other. This is true risk diversification. This is building true multiple streams of income. This is a truly scalable strategy that, hey, I can remain being a dentist, honing my skills, growing my practice into a monster so that I can generate more income to park into investments that's going to give me the passive income, right? That's the mindset that we should have. Hey, make it rain with where we're at. Don't try to learn another business. Go in where you're great at and make that as profitable as possible. And while you can, you take a little bit off the table and you pump it into paying your future self and your future bank account, right? And the more that you are able to take active income, the more active income you can put into this side of the passive income, and you keep building that cash flow. This cash flow, if you pay enough intentional thought to building that monster on this side, that's independent of your active work, this monster over here will be worth more than your dental practice. They'll generate more income, and it'll give you the freedom to actually step back.
I would also bring up one other point, and then we're gonna close things up because I know we're both on a tight schedule here. But and I'll let you close down with some final thoughts on how people can get in touch with you. But guys, I know for years, dentists they've struggled and they've toiled and they've labored under this horrible misconception that when they build a practice, they're building something of lasting value and they're building a retirement with that practice. But guys, your practice is literally the riskiest asset you own. I'm going to say that again. I want you to read my lips. Your practice is the riskiest asset you own. When you die, your practice goes to zero like that. It's done. If you get ill, if you get injured, find a way to transfer value from that riskiest asset into something that is leveraged against just about everything in the world. That's my 2 cents.
That's bro. I think that's huge right there. I mean, there's too many docs that feel a false sense of security because they have this practice that's a multi-million-dollar practice.
Absolutely.
Right. And I say first of all, it's a great feat for a doctor, any doctor that's built a wonderful business to get to that point.
Absolutely.
But listen, take some of that off the table because Doc is right. Right. If you're the engine that runs that business and the viability of that dentist is completely dependent on you, that situation, my friend, is fraught with risk. Absolutely. Take some off of the table, please.
It's an unacceptable level of risk when you begin to think about that as an asset class. Think about your practice as an asset class. It is literally the riskiest asset class you can invest in. And if you think about growth, sure, you want to have some in risky stuff, right? But do you want to save your nest egg? You want to make sure that the wealth you've created or the riches you've created become wealth? Find something less risky.
That's huge. I mean, listen, the wealthiest people, I don't want to follow what the middle, like they say Susie Orman is for poor people, Dave Ramsey is for middle-class people. But really wealthy people don't follow those rules, right? They follow a different set of rules. And if our doctors are trying to become wealthy, then we need to emulate what the truly wealthy people do, right? So 80-20 rule, 80% of your investments should go into low-risk cash flowing assets, right? If you look at the holdings of multifamily real estate, Alex Rodriguez has $700 million of commercial real estate set on Grant Cardone. He doesn't pays very little in taxes. Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes in his 2016 in his election year, right? Grant Cardone openly brags about barely paying any taxes. I heard Jay-Z say in one of his rhymes, he said, thanks to my accountant, I'm basically living tax-free. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they pay tiny percentages of taxes to what their earnings are, right? Whereas doctors, we're taxed to the max. So listen, we need to do some strategies that these really wealthy people do. I used to think that the strategies that these really wealthy people do are tax cuts and loopholes that's only available to ultra wealthy people. But that's not true. If you look at the way that these people make investments, they live off of depreciation. Alex Rodriguez said half of NFL owners, there's 28 NFL owners. They're all billionaire boys club. I think half of them are in the Forbes top 100 list. They're the wealthiest people in the world. He said half of them have huge holdings in multifamily real estate, right? They make money in whatever industry and they dump it into the multifamily real estate, which can give them cash flow tax-free. They get tons of depreciation, right? Refinances, you can live off of loans forever, and that's all tax-free money, right? So taxes is the biggest expense that any doctor will pay throughout their life. It has the biggest wealth crushing effects. But if we learn strategies that, hey, look, there's ways to mitigate risk, there's ways to offset our incomes, there's ways to offset W-2 income by investing in the right ways, right? So it's just about taking a mindset shift, getting rid of what's been pulled over our eyes by the indoctrination of Wall Street, and just look around. All it takes is a shift in mindset and developing a strategy that you can move towards with intention. That's all it takes to set yourself up to pay less taxes and to build more freedom. It's very simple. The concept is simple. The execution is harder, but the concept is simple. But understanding that concept is sometimes the hardest part. We get in the way of ourselves. right? So it's reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's reading Cash Flow Quadrant. If you haven't read that, I implore all dentists to go and read that book.
And Profit First.
There's a reason it's the #1 personal finance book in human history, right? There's a reason for it.
So, Johnny, talk to them a little bit about how they can get in contact with you. I know we're trying to structure something maybe in Hawaii.
We got something big. We're working on something
but
big.
We'll talk about that a little later whenever things.
Yeah. Let's not drop that yet.
So talk about how they can get a hold of you.
Sure, absolutely. You mentioned it. My YouTube channel. I have a Walk of Wealth is the YouTube channel, walkofwealth.com. The best place is where I'm giving away everything is in my Facebook group, Financial Freedom for Dentists. I'm sure, Doc, you'll probably put a link to that when we post this. So that's the great place. We have a 15-hour video series, free video series on how to invest passively. Lots of checklists, lots of other people that are like other dentists that are already passively investing, building cash flows. Great place to network with other doctors, learn from each other. It's a wonderful community. I think by far that's the best place. We go live every week. I'm going to have you visiting us as well. In a very soon upcoming episode. So that's the best place for sure.
Well, guys, real quick, so that you know, I'm going to have Johnny post his group in our group. Johnny is a member of the Business of Dentistry. And I'm going to leave you guys with a final thought. There are two ways that the balance in your checking account increase. And one is by spending less, and taxes is your biggest expense. And the other way is by making more. Real estate is the only thing in my knowledge, and I could be wrong, but it's the only thing that I know of that does both at the same time. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Johnny, thank you for coming on and giving us an hour of your time. And folks, seriously think about this. Rewatch it. Contact Johnny.
I think there's a lot. I think we dropped a lot of information here. I mean, it's deep. We went deep, but there's a lot of stuff that it was probably worth to rewatch it, man, especially if you're completely unfamiliar with this stuff that we're talking about. Go back and look at it. I think this could be the single most important podcast you've ever watched. If it changes somebody's mindset and takes them to building immeasurable wealth.
It certainly could be.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks again for joining us. For our podcast listeners, go ahead and like and subscribe. Find Johnny's channel, like and subscribe on that as well. For those of you who joined us live here in the audience on the Business of Dentistry, drop your questions that you have down below, and Johnny will do his best to answer them in as timely of a fashion as a very busy person can. Until the next time, thank you guys for being fans of the of the Dear Doc podcast and the Business of Dentistry. We'll catch you on the flip side.